You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
Understanding that balance is an illusion will help people realize that striving for work-life balance is an aspiration in futility, which will only lead to frustration and stress. Living a harmonized life, on the other hand, is a completely different ballgame. As a true professional or entrepreneur, which do you desire or are you working towards? Balance or harmony? Welcome to the Harmonized Life podcast. I am the harmonizer. My name is Kemi Ogunkoya. Hi, welcome to the Harmonized Life podcast by Kemi Ogunkoya, the harmonizer on Africa Business Radio. Our focus is to educate you of the need to move away from the narrative of balance to harmony, because balance promotes the strive for equilibrium between work and life. However, the extent to which one is a priority over the other changes during an individual's day, week, year, and even a lifetime. Harmony, on the other hand, is a deliberate choice to meaningfully, deeply, and rewardingly prioritize the key areas of life, such that you are living a wholesomely productive and fulfilling life at work, at home, in your community, and within self. So, welcome to the Harmonized Life podcast. Welcome back to the Harmonized Life podcast with Kemi Ogunkoya, the harmonizer on Africa Business Radio. Leadership as we know it is never about position, power, or popularity. An effective leader who must lead, especially in the contemporary world, must be well-rounded and possess the right competencies for their leadership roles in the key areas of life. When we come back, we are going into our guest segment, where I introduce you to Mrs. Kemi Ogunkoya, a leadership development strategist, member, Forbes Business Council, author of the Leadership Guardian, founder and CEO of Rellies Works. We'll be discussing the topic, leadership in the contemporary world, leading at work, at home, in the society, and within self. Stay with us.
You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
Welcome back to the Harmonized Life podcast with Kemi Ogunkoya. I have here with me Mrs. Kemi Ogunkoya, and I'm super excited to have you on the show today. Hi, Kemi.
Hi, Kemi.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Good to have you. I'm excited. So let's dig into today's show, right? First of all, let's get to meet the delectable Kemi and tell us more about the Leadership Guardian book and why you wrote the book.
All right. Thank you so much for having me once again. I'm Kemi Ogunkoya, a leadership development strategist, management consultant, and author, and I'm passionate about the subject of leadership.
Obviously.
And I work with a lot of leaders across different sectors, different organizations, across different continents, to help them develop their leadership competence such that they can function effectively in their current roles and also seamlessly take on higher positions. And this because I realized that there seems to be a lot of leadership gap or lacuna, as the case may be, in different structures, be it at home, be it in the workplace, be it also on the national landscape too. And these lacunas cost us so greatly, right? I've seen organizations that have pretty much gone from grace to grass, that have stopped to exist because of the effectiveness and, efficiency of their leaders. So I'm really passionate about leaders, and I help leaders become better versions of themselves and also thrive in all the areas of their lives. And the journey has led me to quite interesting places, and of course writing The Leadership Guardian is one of those. And I've had to answer the question, why the Leadership Guardian?
Why?
How did it come across? And I remember it's about 3 years now. I do trainings all over the world, and I remember facilitating a training in Dubai. And I had one of the participants in the course of the training ask me, "Madam, I hear you so clearly, and I understand, yes, we have to be great leaders, but why does this even matter anymore? Why does it matter? Why do I have to be the one to become the better person when the other person around me doesn't care anymore? So why do I have to go through all the stress?" And it was at that point I realized that a lot of people were also losing hope, because it felt that there just wasn't enough example anymore. So it was important that people had to understand that there was a level of responsibility that lies on each shoulder. Right?
Because why would I go ahead to develop my leadership competences while the other party is jeopardizing all my efforts?
Absolutely. But then what happens when we all go our way, when we all turn our faces the other way? So it's important that we have people who can stand in the gap as the guardian of or custodians of leadership, who are able to channel and champion effective leadership at home, who are able to champion the cause of leadership in the workplace, and then who are also able to be great ambassadors in the society. So that led me to write The Leadership Guardian, and I was able to bring the beauty of the years of experience working with leaders in different capacities to bear, and it's been a great experience.
Amazing. And that also brings me to the fact that our books travel to places that we cannot be.
Dude,
so it's more like expanding your sphere of influence.
Absolutely. The Leadership Guardian has a footprint in about 18 countries already, in countries I've never been.
Exactly. So while we were talking, you mentioned something lacuna. I said some of our listeners might not know exactly what a lacuna is. So can you also throw more light on that?
A lacuna is a gap, and pretty much a gap in. So if you look at a gap in leadership in the home front, for example, where there may be parents or guardians who are not standing up to effective leadership by being effective role models, by setting the right examples, by providing and being that source of inspiration to the constituents of their family. So that's a huge gap, and it's a gap that can cost a whole lot, right? And particularly, I look at leadership in itself as being very pivotal to growth in any area of life.
True.
So imagine a child that has been raised in a home where they haven't seen the example of effective or great leadership, right? And such child goes into the society. What happens is that it becomes a ripple effect.
True.
Right? And then it doesn't end with that child. It goes on to the next generation, and then to the next generation. So that's why it's important that we become aware as to the responsibility that lies on our shoulders, and we understand that the future of humanity lies solely on our shoulders.
Wow, thank you so much. Then tell me, with all the things you do, you train across the world, how do you navigate the demands of being a wife, a mother, a global business leader, and of course everything in between.
Wow.
Because this show is about achieving that harmony.
Absolutely. And it's really important that we're talking about having conversations like this really about harmony, because I believe that we cannot say we're great leaders when we're just doing well in one area. There has to be that level of synchronization and harmony, across the different areas and different expressions of our lives. So I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a wife.
That's why I said everything in between.
It just seems like the list is endless. But then, how am I able to balance all of this? I don't think I balance, but I think I integrate those key areas very well. And that's because I'm very clear as to what is most important to me. Absolutely. So in all of this, I know that my family comes first, right? And I know the demands of having to show up. So I'm married to someone who is not always around because of the nature of his job. So which means that there's a whole lot to do in that department, to be there for the kids, to be there for myself, and to be there for my spouse and all the other demands of life. So for me, it's more about what is most important to me. How do I maximize the use of time? There are times I have to be away from the country for a week, for 2 weeks. I have a good support system, right?
Time maximization support system.
And I can't overemphasize that. So when I'm home, right?
True.
You have people who claim to be home, but then they're not home. They're home physically.
So if you're there, you have to be present.
But you have to be present, right? I'm also very, very aware as to the things that are most important to me and the things that help me stay alive. So prioritization is very key. I don't play with rest, right? I listen to my body.
Very key.
And I eat well, right? I eat well because I know that if I'm not eating, thank you. I know that if I don't eat well, my body is the container that's going to move me around to be able to do all of this. Sure. And if I'm not taking care of it right, then I'm going to suffer. And I also try to exercise. So I said try because sometimes I find myself wanting, but then I do that. But it boils down to being very clear as to what is important to me.
That intentionality.
Prioritizing, and understanding how to deploy my resources effectively, my time, my money. And when I say money, sometimes I have to outsource some things, right? And I'm very comfortable. Absolutely, I'm very comfortable doing that. I don't believe that we have to do everything. So I find peace being able to delegate and being able to identify right partners. And like I said, I have a great support system too in my family.
Oh, thank you so much for all the nuggets, practical nuggets that you shared. Now, I know you have a favorite quote. Exactly. And I so much love that quote. And it goes, you cannot become better at what you do unless you become better at who you are. Can you please share more light?
Wow. So that quote goes along with me everywhere.
Whenever I see it, I know it's Kemi.
And it came to me from my own personal experience, right? And it was at a point where I ventured into the world of entrepreneurship. I got into the world. I just got thrown into that deep ocean. And, I started out my business as a management consultant, starting my MBA, got out of the 9 to 5, and I said to myself, Kemi, you have arrived. This is it. We're made for this. Come on. And then 2 years down the line, I was angry. I was frustrated, and it was obvious that we had to shut down the business because we just couldn't sustain anymore. We had a lot of bills to pay. I had people on the payroll, and I looked at myself and I'm like, what have you gotten yourself into? So we drew the curtains. I had to clean out the office and then went home, and I was so mad at myself. What did you do? Why did this happen to you? And it felt like I failed, and I just couldn't deal with that at that point. But then what that did was
retreat.
Reflect. Retreat, reflect. It took me back to the drawing board. And on one of those days, I was talking to myself. So how do we move on from here? And it dropped in my spirit. You cannot become great at what you do unless you become great at who you are.
Bagam.
And it felt like, oh my goodness. Like I just started to shiver, and it absolutely made sense. Because here I was running a business, like I was running my bedroom, I hadn't grown in terms of awareness. I was running a business that I wasn't emotionally prepared for. And when I hit any setback or obstacle, I took it personal. Like I was so angry. So I had no's from business prospect, and I'm like, oh no, these people don't like me. And then I just wanted to withdraw into my shell and all of that. So it was all of that. And I realized that I just had to develop the capacity to be a better version of myself, to become more self-aware, and self-awareness on different levels of knowing myself, self-management, understanding relationships, developing empathy, understanding how to even sustain relationships, having to deal with obstacles,
in the critical areas of your life.
So it was so obvious that was where I slipped. It wasn't because of the lack of technical competence. It was failure from being able to identify and work with self. And when I stepped into that place of understanding that self-leadership indeed is a bedrock of effective leadership, is a bedrock of growth, is a bedrock for acceleration, expansion, whatever you call it. Yes, I knew, if I can fix this, I can fix anything.
Seems like you're talking to me, but I know that we have a large audience that you're talking to. So let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll go deep into the topic of discussion.
Absolutely.
You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.
Welcome back to the Harmonize Life podcast on Africa Business Radio. Hello, Kemi.
Hi.
All right. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Okay, let's go on. Now we're going into the main topic. So what exactly is leadership? And what are the critical elements, or should I call them characteristics, of an effective leader?
Okay, so what is leadership? Over the years, leadership has been defined, based on different parameters. In fact, leadership has been evolving, right, based on the different eras that we have been witnessing. But then for me, I see that leadership is a combination of so many things, right? Okay. It's the combination of different elements like our personalities, our interests, our motivation, our character, our beliefs, our thinking, our behavior, our actions, our systems, our processes. And I believe that leadership is the ability to leverage all these key elements to achieve goals or objectives with people, right? Being able to harness all of this. And sometimes you could have this combination to achieve a goal with self. However, sometimes it's you harnessing this essential elements to achieve a goal or an objective through people. And I say through people, with people rather than through people. So sometimes people feel it should be through people. And when you say through people, it's like you're using them,
I get it,
right? To achieve that goal or that objective.
With people,
but with
the collaboration.
Absolutely. Where you're a part of that journey, you're active, you're not just dishing out instruction. It's not about control, it's not about power, it's not about authority, it's not about manipulation or oppression. Rather, it's the ability to work with people to achieve goals and objectives while staying in the parameter of good faith.
Good faith. Wow. So this speaks to humanity.
Absolutely.
Speaks to humanity.
Absolutely. And I think, writing the book about leadership guardian, one thing that a lot of people have said is, I love the dimension with which you talk about leadership. It's not this bullish idea. It's more about, yes, you want to achieve a goal. You're very clear about it. But at the same time, you're achieving this goal as a human being.
So what this even tells me is that every individual is a leader. Just my starting point, I said it's not about position or anything. No. You are a leader.
Absolutely. I say that leadership is beyond a condition, it's beyond a position, it's beyond a situation. True. Rather, it is a choice.
Absolutely. So what are the characteristics of an effective leader?
So there are a lot of characteristics of effective leadership. But I came up with a model, and it's called the dozen model. And it's the dozen model for effective leadership. And, I talk about some elements, 12 C's of leadership. And, in no particular order, but understanding that all these elements are also interwoven and they all are dependent on each other. I'll talk about some of those characteristics. First is clarity.
So you called it the 12
C's. So it's called C's. The dozen model leadership framework.
Okay.
Right.
Got that.
So it begins with clarity. Now, a lot of people want to lead, but then they don't even understand what leadership is all about. For some, leadership is about instruction and commanding. It's about other people, right? How can I manage people? How can I instruct people? How can I direct people?
You have to lead yourself
when
first.
You have to start with yourself. So a leader needs that level of clarity as to exactly what leadership is. A leader needs to be clear about who they are. What do they stand for? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And trust me, a lot of people are lost in this department.
Totally agree.
Yeah, so clarity, and I love a particular quote. It's by Yogi Berra, and he says that if you do not know where you're headed, you will wind up somewhere else, right? So it begins with clarity, clarity with self, and as I always say, that great leadership begins with self-awareness. So a leader has to be very clear and spend time spend time with themselves to know who they are. So clarity, and there's character. Okay. Now, a lot of times we have conversations around leadership, and then we talk about vision. Oh yeah, leader has to be able to network. Leader has to be, we say all those really great stuff, but then we leave out character. But character is an essential bedrock of effective leadership. What are your values?
Sure.
What do you stand for? Or what do you stand for? What's at the core of your interaction with people?
When you even interact with people, you don't interact with persons, you interact with values. It's an exchange of values.
Absolutely, I agree with you. So character is very, very key, and leaders need to start looking beyond the numbers, to looking at what sponsors the numbers. True. Right? And this has to be reflected in the kind of businesses and how we operate our businesses, how we interact and relate with people, right? It begins with the values that we hold on so dearly. And then there's competence. As a leader, there has to be level of competence across 3 key areas. So I say there has to be competence around self-leadership. So that's leading self, and then leading teams, so leading others. So when we say leading teams, it could be leading your family, right?
Exactly.
That's a team.
Exactly.
It could be work teams, it could be religious place teams, it could be NGOs, whatever it is, you'll lead it. And then organizational leadership, community leadership, as the case may be. There has to be that level of competence. A leader needs to be able to identify, we spoke about a lacuna, a gap earlier. You need to be able to identify where you are, where you want to be, and then, what are the gaps? What do you need to do to close the gap? There's communication.
That's a whole lot of them. I think everyone should go get the Leadership Guardian by Kemi Ogunkoya to get this 12 model of leadership. It's important. So you can follow Kemi on all her social media platforms and get a copy of her book. So while we are talking, you mentioned that it starts with self-leadership, so self-awareness. And it was as if you and I. So that takes me to the next question. And I say, what is the role of self-awareness and, of course, your personality in developing and accelerating your leadership competencies?
Yeah, it's very key. It's very key. So they say that you cannot manage what you can't measure, right? And even when it comes to how you can lead or how you can be effective as a leader, if you do not know who you are, then how do you manage yourself? So say, for example, a leader who is triggered by probably lack of competence of their constituents, and each time you experience that trigger, you have an outburst. Self-awareness is what will help you understand what the triggers are, so that sometimes before you're even triggered up to the point of an eruption, you know exactly the handwritings on the wall so that you can manage yourself. But beyond that, self-awareness is what helps us function effectively. It's what helps us accelerate our leadership capabilities. It's what helps us become comfortable in our skin, right, and accept ourselves. So there are different levels to self-awareness. So there's the self-knowledge, the self-acceptance, the self-management, the self-growth, and then going all through those levels. You need to be able to know what your strengths are as a leader. You need to know what your blind spots are. You need to know what your weaknesses are. And if you do not know all of this, you can function effectively as a leader, because you're just going to be going blindly. You could be working in the areas of your weaknesses, and you don't understand how to comport yourself. You don't understand how to respond appropriately to the world. You don't understand how to manage stress. How exactly do you want to manage yourself and then manage your business or whatever you have to manage? So self-awareness is very key. The knowledge of your personality is also a part of you being aware of yourself. Now, when it comes to personality, I realize that a lot of people who are leaders or who parade themselves as leaders don't even know what their personalities are. And now when it comes to personalities, I say, are not dead sentences, but they open your eyes to a new level of consciousness about who you are, helping you understand patterns, right? And your personality is very key. Now, a lot of times a lot of people mistake some personalities as, they just attribute some personalities to great leadership. Like you just see someone and say, oh yeah, you have this personality, no, you're suited for leadership. But it goes way beyond that, because every personality has their pros and then they have their cons. So it's about how can you as a leader have knowledge of your personality and then understand how to modify certain behaviors and certain expressions so that you can become a better version of yourself, lead effectively, lead efficiently, and achieve the results that you want as a leader.
Thank you, Kemi. Well, while we are talking, I realized that I could relate to what you're saying because, of course, I'm a coach, right? And I have gone through this journey. But what if it's just someone that doesn't even understand what self-awareness is, personality? How can they begin this journey?
So, yes, we can begin the journey by making out time to know ourselves. And what do I mean by this? Now, a lot of people are too busy to even spend time hanging out with themselves, right? And basic things that you can do would be to sit down, call yourself to a family meeting, and by that I mean your body, your spirit, and your soul.
And your soul. That's so funny.
Have a sit out with yourself. And when I say sit out, I don't mean you have to go to the mountains or attempt Kilimanjaro. No, you could be in your room. Write out what your 5 key strengths are. Right? Write out what you consider to be your weaknesses or growth areas. I like to call them growth areas.
Yes.
Write out what your 5 interests are. Write out what your values are. Now, for some people, this is Herculean task, right? I realize some people don't even know what their strengths are. Some view themselves from the place of their weaknesses, so they're very quick to write out their weaknesses, and then you talk about their strengths, and then they keep going, I'm not sure if I have any strength. Or some are very good with their strengths, and then they're like, you know what, I don't know any weakness, I'm a perfect person. I hear a lot. So you can start with that exercise, and what that does is that it brings a level of awareness. What you can also do is to talk to people who are close to you, who can be objective and truthful enough to tell you, okay, what are 3 key things that you can say about me, right? What are 3 key words that you could use to describe me? What are things that you consider to be my strengths? 3, what would you consider to be my weaknesses?
True.
So when you have these conversations with people, you can, compare notes. Now, it doesn't mean that everything that they have said is true. It's their perspective, but it's definitely a lens with which they view you. So what you have to do is to synchronize all of this and see, okay, so which of these describes me, right? Which areas do I need to work on? So, but then you require some level of awareness. You require some level of willingness, to want to be able to take feedback. Some people don't want to take feedback. So if you don't want to take feedback, don't bother about this journey of self-awareness. It's not for you. So you need to be able to take feedback. You need to be willing to want to take feedback, because that's what activates the journey of growth and awareness and effective leadership. So those are some things that you can do to start. You can also take note of the things that interest you. Have conversations with people. What are the things you like? Oh no, I don't know. What are the things you don't like? Oh yes, I know the things I don't like, but then what do you like? I don't know. What interests you? I don't know. What is your passion? I don't know. What's your purpose? I don't know. So those are some of the questions that, yes, you may want to run away from, but the questions that have to be answered, that the answers will provide you tremendous insights on this journey of self-awareness. And on the journey of self-awareness, it's important to note that the journey never ends. Absolutely. Right? And it doesn't matter whether you're 50 or you're 70.
It just journey, continues. Not a destination.
Absolutely.
Wow. So what that means is that we have to do the inner work.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We have to do the inner work. Yep. Nobody's going to do it for
Nobody.
You. So, listeners, all what Kemi has said now, starting from leadership starts from self-leadership. And for you to say that I am a leader, you need to be able to understand yourself. There are different elements. Of course, your self-awareness, self-mastery, what do you call it? Self-growth, everything. So what that means is that you have to do the work. Nobody's going to do it for you, but the work has to start from you, the inner work. So if you have any question, follow us on Africa Business Radio and Kemi Ogunkoya on Instagram. You can download, stream on all the streaming platforms, and we'll be happy to hear your questions and provide answers to them. Thank you so much, Kemi.
Thank you.
That was such an amazing session.
I had a great time. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Understanding that balance is an illusion will help people realize that striving for work-life balance is an aspiration in futility, which will only lead to frustration and stress. Living a harmonized life, on the other end, is a completely different ballgame. As a true professional or entrepreneur, which do you desire or are you working towards? Balance or harmony? Welcome to the Harmonized Life podcast. I am the harmonizer. My name is Kemi Ogunkoya.
You're listening to Africa Business Radio, where you get up-to-date insights on the Africa business landscape. Log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Your favorite shows are available on podcasts. Download them on our website and mobile app. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.